It doesn't matter. Listen, listen, listen. It doesn't matter. Under no circumstances are you to ever let one out in the elevator. It doesn't matter if there's 14 people in it. It doesn't matter if you're the only one in there. It will stay in there and someone will enter. You understand? These are words of wisdom. Wisdom. Anyway. Hey there. Hello and welcome. Today we are discussing variables within JavaScript. Hopefully I did not scare you off with the intro to objects, in which that was in the previous video. But again, that was just to pretty much show you what was capable. We wanted to get your feet wet on looking at properties and stay out the shot. We wanted to get you guys a little comfortable with looking at functions, taking a look at properties, objects with properties and functions, and of course trying to retrieve that data within the console. Okay, so without further ado, let's go on ahead and let's start working with variables today. Okay, and specifically variables using numbers. Okay, we're going to start really slow. We'll have 3 files open: an HTML, a CSS, and I believe a JavaScript file, and we're going to take it slow. Okay, without further ado, please open up your Visual Studio Code and let's get started. All right, sounds good. Good. Okay, now, and once again, I always have my directories listed over there because I always seem to be working on some type of material for you guys because I love you guys so much. Now, let's create an actual file here. And let's see, we're working with actual numbers. So let's call this variable number or variable numbers. And this is going to be an HTML file. And if you notice Visual Studio, it automatically opens up the actual file. And let's add another file here. Well, let's see, because we are going to have 3. So we have variable numbers.html. Let's also go with variable numbers.css. And we're going to have one more file. And let's call it variable numbers.js. So now we have 3 files, and let's right click, open with live server. Perfect. And let's slide this over and add that, close this and that. And of course, minimize this. Just trying to get everything working as to where it should be. There we go. All right, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to split these files here just so we can see them a little bit better. All right, so for the HTML, that's going to be small. So let's get a bare bones boilerplate here. And we're working with, this is going to be called, what do we name this? Number variable. Perfect. And we want to associate the CSS file and the JavaScript file within the JS file. So in order to do that, for the actual CSS file, we're going to do link, tab, and where is the actual file? It is within the same directory here. So I'll just tab since it's the first file that came up. And we also want to associate and link the JavaScript file. And with that, we're going to use the script. And let's see, the actual source is going to be same directory, variable numbers.js. There we go. And make sure, good, variable numbers.js. Perfect. All right. Oh, and actually we want that to wait for the actual HTML to load. So let's type in defer right here. This way the actual JS will actually wait for the HTML to actually load. And what we're going to do is have an ID, an actual div with an ID of wrapper. Okay, so we're just working with the markup here. Nothing, this should not be, this should not be any type of rocket science for you right now. And if it is, please go back a few videos, go to the HTML series or the CSS portion. So we're going to have a span in here. This is pretty much where we're going to output the actual processing of the JavaScript. And let's see here. Perfect. And now what we can do, let's just have a little text here. Output will go here. And I do not see it here, so let's just refresh. Perfect. All right. Perfect. All right. Now what we can do, so we'll keep that here. Let's have the styles actually go, where do the styles go? Oh. Let's have the styles go to the right. Okay, we'll close that and we'll move the JavaScript here, but we're also going to move that down. Perfect. So now we can kind of see everything here. So this is perfect. So now let's work with the actual CSS. And with the CSS, what we're going to do is we just want an area where we can actually render some type of output from our JavaScript file. We haven't even actually gotten to it yet, but we're just building it up. Our markup is done, which is our HTML. And so now let's work with the ID of the actual div container here. And we're going to give it a width of 400 pixels. And let's go with a border just so we can kind of see what's around it. Okay. And if this is, looking crazy for you, we do have a CSS portion to the course. All right. So just click on one of the playlists, the CSS playlist. Let's give this a margin 0. And auto. So top and bottom 0 and auto for the left and right, which will automatically center the actual output here. And let's make this a little smaller since we have a smaller screen here. That'll work. Perfect. And now for the actual output area. Let's see here. The output has an ID of output. So I'm going to do hashtag output. And let's make the font size 20px. All right. And we see it change to the left. And I guess I can squish that down a little bit. There we go. All right. So we got the font 20px. Let's do the font family. So these are this is just the CSS rule here. And within the rule, I have some properties and the values. So font family is going to be Arial. Good. The text has changed to the left. Let's add a little padding because the words are touching the actual border. So the padding is going to be 10 pixels all the way around. Beautiful. Let's align that text. Well, actually, let's see. Yes. Actually, I'm going to display block this just to make sure that the span is a block level element, meaning nothing to the left or right. And now we can, of course, have the text inside it align within the center. Great. So now our CSS portion is done. Now let's actually, now that we have that done, let's work with an actual variable here. And what we can do is some easy math. So let's say we have a price and we have a quantity and a total. So we want to be able to, if you're working with e-commerce, this is something that you would do on a regular basis. So let's let price equal, well, no, it's not going to equal anything. Let's just say let price. So this is now saying, okay, I have a variable called price. Okay, you can do var price. All right, and you can do const price. Right, in which this variable's value would never change. But in this case, we're just going to stay with let. Okay, and we'll go over the reason as to why we use let versus const versus var. So let price. Okay, so now we have a holder for price. Good. Let's get another variable here. Let quantity and let total. Good. So now let's give these guys a value. Price equals 5, and we'll say quantity equals 2. There's only 2 things in the actual shopping cart. All right. And let's say the total is going to equal the price times the quantity. And before we even do anything here, we can actually go over to the inspect tool, click on the console, and if everything's working right, we should be able to just type in price and get a value, which we see below, 5. We can get the value of quantity, which is 2. We can do the math of price times the quantity, which is 10. Okay, if we change that and said plus 3, we can do price times quantity plus 3. Okay, so we can do any type of mathematical equations within the actual console just to test the output. Okay, so let's clear that out. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we want the actual total value here, which is the total of price times quantity. We want that to be outputted. We want that we want that placed right within the actual span output. Okay, so now let's do that. So we want to get a variable here. Let's say let element EL, that's short. You can name this anything you want, but we just need a holder to display that. So first we're going to say let element output equals document. Oh, here we go. This is document, an object of the actual window browser. Okay, so now we're working with the document, and in the first video we saw that objects can have properties and methods or functions. So here we are dealing with a browser, a document object that is specific to the actual browser. So document dot, oh, there's a long list of properties here that Visual Studio Code allows us to see, but and we'll talk more about this in later videos, but the actual method we're looking for is to get element by ID, and that's going to take one argument. Okay, so here is our actual method, get the actual method of the document object, and it does take an actual argument, and that argument is going to be the name of the actual ID that we're trying to reference here. So in our markup over here, we have an ID of output. This is get element by ID. Which element? This element. So I'll copy that and I'll paste it right in there. Good. All right, and now I will end it with a semicolon. And now let's go to the next line. Okay, move this over just a little bit. Good. All right, and now actually, you know what? Let's go back over to the browser because this is all linked, right? So let's type in L output and see what we get. And that variable, L output, which is the essence of this here, everything is here. The span, the actual ID, the output, the actual text, everything lines up. So that's perfect. Nice and smooth so far, no hiccups. And now what we want to do is we want to change the actual content. We want to place the total within this. So right here, I can do L output dot. We're going to be looking for another property here, a property or a method, and that property is going to be text content. Okay, and look at that. When I type that in the browser, I get the actual text content that's up above, which is right here. So now if I wanted to type in something like equals hi there and enter, so now if I put in L output dot text content equals hi there, you know what? I can just go on ahead and say, you know what? Let's have L output dot text content equal the variable of total. And the variable total will have the actual total equation of price times quantity. So let's try that here. Okay, and look at that. There it is. Total price times quantity equals 10, and that 10 is going to actually be placed within the variable total, and total is going to actually substitute the text content of the L output variable, which has the complete essence of the output ID and span. And just to make this look a little prettier, let's use a template string here. We'll talk more about this when we get to strings. Your total is total. So now we can actually just have a regular sentence, and it says your total is 10. So here, if I bring this up here just so we can see it a little better, and close this, the complete JavaScript portion of this is right here. Not bad, 10 lines of code. So that wasn't too bad for today, right? Not too bad. Got 10 lines of code. I mean, even if we were to take out the actual spaces here, maybe 8. And now, you know what? You were just able to actually work with numbers, create some actual variables. Well, what else were you able to do? You did a little mathematical equation, multiplying price times quantity. There's a lot going on here. We actually worked with the object of document, the document object for the window browser. We worked with it with its method of get element by ID, and then we went and actually searched for the actual output. Well, actually, where is it at here? There we go. So we actually took the output ID, which is for the span, and we took this text, and when the program ran, we substituted it with the actual mathematical equation, and it gave us a string and the actual answer. So good job. Pat yourself on the back for that. Change up a few things if you would like. You can always go on ahead and test exactly what you're doing. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or comments, of course, you can actually leave that within the actual comments below. And on top of that, you can always email me directly, but hit the notifications button so you can actually get updated on new material. Okay, subscribe, notifications, likes, all that other good stuff. And that is it. Full stack out.